this is Caroline Black coming to you from Middle Georgia State University, and I am going to be presenting on thriving in writing, um, which is to help relieve anxiety in the writing process. I know a lot of you are students or writers, or you would like to be writers, and that is writing anxiety is definitely very much a part of any sort of study or even just trying to write for yourself. A few things on anxiety and writing. Suffering from anxiety and other issues that can affect your concentration can be difficult at best. Um, in the course module for Thrive in Writing, um, I will offer you some tips to better relieve the anxiety that you may have about writing or during the writing process. So, anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the United States, affecting 40 million adults every year, according to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. And that's just people who have anxiety as a disorder. Now, writing anxiety does not necessarily require that you have a disorder in order to have writing anxiety. According to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, their writing center suggests that you don't necessarily have to have a disorder to have anxiety. In fact, the anxiety for writing often comes from things that are learned. For instance, have you been taught to think that you're a bad writer? Do you struggle with procrastination when it comes to writing? Do you have difficulty maintaining focus throughout? And so while you may not have an anxiety disorder, you could have writing anxiety. But at the same time, if you have anxiety disorder, you might have writing anxiety as well. Here's two writers' thoughts on writing anxiety that I have two writers I rather admire. The first of these is Anne Lamott. She talks about the writing process. She suggests sitting down and at the same time of the day, same time every day, and you fight with your inner demons until you get the task done. So she says a lot of what writing is not necessarily just sitting down and writing. A lot of it is just struggling. And so struggling with your inner demons as a writer can be very difficult. In his philosophy of composition, Edgar Allan Poe writes about writing his famous poem, The Raven, and the way he talks about writing the poem is very methodical, and it's indicative not so much as genius but hard work, so much as hard work. So the point of the matter is that you can be a writer, someone who writes, without some dreamy God-given gift of genius. What it takes, what most people will tell you that it takes, is practice and hard work. So you don't just come out of the womb with a pen and all of a sudden you're a writer. You become a writer by practice. You become a writer by doing the act of writing and continuing to do this act of writing over and over again. It's just like with any other task or hobby or skill that you have. You practice and you become better. So how do I get started? It really is a situation of sitting down and fighting your inner demons, but it's also telling yourself, I am going to dedicate this time for this long to writing. You have to be able to situate yourself in a headspace where you're going to say, I'm going to write. And in order to do that, there's a few steps that I offer to help you along the way. So this is a learning module that will teach you a method of combating anxiety in writing by helping to minimize the struggle with the inner demons and getting to the act of writing itself. So step one is plan ahead of time. And in order to do that, you will want to either have a physical planner, or you could do this on your smartphone's calendar. If you have a physical planner, you can input, for instance, on July 14th at 9 a.m., 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., I will be writing. And that way you have set a goal with yourself. You've set not just a goal, but a promise to write. And so that can help, especially if you pay attention to your planner, it can help you to start the practice of writing. I'm going to write at 9 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock in the morning on this day. And then you can just start planning it for your whole week. I will write at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock every day. Maybe every other day to start, but you want to eventually get it to where you're writing every day. And the same thing can be done with your smartphone's calendar. You don't necessarily need a planner. Sometimes it's good to have like a physical thing there, but gosh, planners are kind of expensive. But you can do that with your smartphone's calendar as well. Step two is creating time for yourself. And when I say creating time for yourself, I mean being able to mark out the time that you're writing. So for me, I do one of two things. I try a YouTube playlist for relaxation / studying / stress, or I create or use a Spotify or similar app playlist with songs that I enjoy. So of the first two, there's a lot of, and conversely, you can set a timer on your phone for like an hour or something. But for the first one, there's a lot of playlists out there. Here's a screenshot of me just looking through the playlists that I have seen throughout my tenure as a YouTuber, or not necessarily a YouTuber, but a YouTube watcher. There's a playlist for night studies, playlist to romanticize studying math, for instance, and you can use these. A lot of them involve classical music, but a lot of them also involve auditory aspects, such as the beating of rain on a window, or a fireplace, the sound of the fire. A lot of it's really calming, and you can find pretty much any vibe with these sort of playlists. Conversely, you could go to Spotify. I have the playlist of angst that I have created because I was in an angry mood and I wanted to be in an angry mood. So when you're in an angry mood, you create an angry playlist. But you could conversely create a playlist that's calming. You could create a playlist of your favorite songs. You're not limited to one thing. And then finally, what I did was I made a playlist that's 30 times of one song, so that I would know by the time the playlist ended that I was done, or I would make sure that I would not be done until the playlist ended. So it's all up to you. It's very informal, and but a lot of the YouTube playlists have helped me to get through studying or writing when I thought that I couldn't. So step 3, reduce the distractions. Close your social media and email tabs, basically anything that will give you an alert. Use a new window for your playlist and whatever research you might need. So if you go back to, if it lets me, I don't think it lets me. But if you saw my screenshots from before, you'll see that I had a lot of tabs open. You want to minimize the tabs that you have open. You want to minimize the windows you have open. Because the more tabs you have open, the more opportunities you have to go into the other tabs and start looking at that. I mean, you could have like a meme tab or a Facebook tab or an email tab or, you know, whatever. You have all these tabs, and I know for me at least, and I think this happens for a lot of people too, is that you can just enjoy the other tabs a little too much. You basically flip from tab to tab, especially when you're really stressed. And so you want to minimize that so that you're focusing more on what's at hand than really cool memes. Okay, step 4 is brainstorming. It's often said it's better to brainstorm before writing, and not just because you produce ideas, but it's because it can give you more confidence to set aforesaid ideas on the paper. So brainstorming is, I know it's probably something you've been taught since kindergarten in a sense, like we need to brainstorm this. But brainstorming is, it can be done in so many different ways. Here's 3 examples. The first example is listing. So here's a list I've made. You would just randomly list things that go together. List things that go together. List more things, adjacent things, even more things. And then you just list until you can list no more, or you don't care about how much you're listing or not. The second is clustering, where you have the central theme in the middle, and then you have things that go with this, kind of webbed from there, and then you have the adjacent ideas to these. You have things that go with it in a different way, and then you have the adjacent ideas. And so that can be a very good visual way to see how your ideas work and to help map them map them in your writing basically. And then a third example is free writing. So I just randomly did some free writing. I wrote, I'm going to write the first thing that comes to my head because I can, and maybe it will be an idea that is genius. Let's see if I can pull it up. Maybe it will give me an idea to write about 2 people who meet in front of various monuments but do not otherwise know each other. Wow, I am a genius. So you basically you just write what's in your head. You don't stop. You can put a timer on it for a minute or so, but you're just writing what comes into your head until you come with a good idea for what you're going to be writing. Okay, step 5 is write. So you've set up the time, you've decreased your distractions, you have something to time yourself. Now write. It doesn't matter if you're a genius in the first draft. It really, 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 really does not. No one's a genius in their first draft. Most people are not going to be great. It's not going to be amazing. It's not going to be something that will rock the world with your very first draft. You're not going to. It just isn't. I've not heard of it ever happening, but maybe it does. But if it does, it's very rare that you will. So don't worry about your first draft. I know Anne Lamott in the same book, she says she has a chapter called Shitty First Drafts, and that's basically what first drafts are. And we deal with it, and we just get over it. And so part part of easing that anxiety really is to just know that your first draft, you don't have to worry about it being the most amazing thing. In fact, editing while writing makes you less of an editor and less of a writer if you're doing them at the same time. So just don't worry about it and just write. And then step 6 is reward yourself. So after you do the after you've finally done the task at hand, you will want to reward yourself because it will help you with positive reinforcement. If you go back to like B.F. Skinner, the pigeon gets reinforced to do a task because the pigeon gets a reward, which for the pigeon is typically noms, food. But obviously for us as human beings, it's a little more complex. So I just recommend, well, I don't have a recommendation exactly because everyone's different. So if you want to binge watch something that you were enjoying, if you want to look at memes because it helps you de-stress, if you want to play with your pet, whatever pet you have, or hang out with your family or friends. There's no limit on it as long as it's something that you enjoy doing, that you like doing, and that is going to um, de-escalate any sort of stress. So here's a few resources. I'm just going to keep them up, and I have a few final thoughts. Uh, Writing and anxiety, they tend to go hand in hand. um, I hope that some of these tips and ideas will be helpful for you. I they certainly helped me. I found that I couldn't find very many thoughts about not necessarily writing anxiety, but people who have anxiety as such, and so how to help minimize that and help with the concentration that can sometimes be distorted. So a lot of what I have basically done here has been just coming up with things that have helped myself, which I hope will help you. If you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to send me a comment or send me an email. My email is on the website. Thank you so much for participating with this project. Thank you.